When somebody buys a new RV, they're always focused on price and benefits and features of that RV. But one of the biggest things that people also need to realize is that they're also purchasing a dealership support network when they do that. And it's so important to make sure that you're picking the right dealership to partner with for your situation. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We're Will and Jen, and we do Sunday vlogs and Wednesday informational videos just like this. In our last vlog, which will be linked up at the top, you'll see that we went to Helen, Georgia, and we had such a blast. So make sure to check that out at the end of this video. All right, so like I said at the beginning, we're really gonna be talking about the dealership aspects and what it means to kind of like buy your dealership or buy into your dealership. Because this is so important when you're going to buy. And I say that, but sometimes it's not as important. And it really depends on your particular situation. So we're gonna go over all that today. But before we jump into the video, I wanted to tell you about a new service that we're offering. So starting now, I'll be able to offer some consultation calls. And we're just starting out, so there's only gonna be a few calls that we can take on to see how it goes. But there is a link down below to my Calendly, and it'll be 1 hour slots that you can sign up for to basically just have a chat with me, and it could be about anything that you need support with. I know that these informational videos, they're very helpful, but at the same time, with all of them combined, it might just be a lot to take in. And if you're trying to make the right purchase and you want to do it as smooth as possible, jumping on a quick call with me might be your best path because every situation is unique and we can build that custom path for you. Again, we can talk about anything from which RV is right for you, answering questions about features, models, benefits, and everything, all the way up into final negotiating and if you're getting a good price and everything. All right, so jumping right into it, like I talked about, basically this video is gonna be almost broken down into comparing two different options. You're really gonna be able to compare buying local versus like traveling and maybe buying from a larger dealership. So both have their pros and cons. We're gonna go over both today. There are some other aspects into it, like you might have multiple local dealerships, which one is the best? We'll touch on that at the end, but the biggest thing is kind of buying local versus traveling. So the very first question that I like to ask people is, what is the price comparison? If there's just a small price comparison, truthfully, support the small local dealership and support your local community. Typically, if you have issues, the general manager or the owner might be right there on site to help work through things. It's worth paying a little bit more. Now, in my opinion, it's not worth paying a whole lot more. So that's kind of the first thing is, what is that price comparison? If it's a big price difference, it's definitely worth most of the time traveling. The next big question, and I think this one is one of the biggest, is what is your plan with the RV? Are you full-time or are you gonna be a weekend warrior? Here's the thing, if you're full-time, it really almost doesn't matter which dealership you're buying from. You just want to make sure that they have a big network so that when you're traveling around, you can get your service work done. If you're local and a weekend warrior, you really kind of want that relationship with the local dealership to be able to come in after your weekend trip and, drop it off, let them know what's wrong. You can, leave it there and get all your warranty work done. Where if you're full-time, again, you're probably never going back to that dealership again since that's the one. So when you're full-time, it really doesn't matter. It's more, shop for the best price and who can service you the best while you're on the road. Another big one is comparing West Coast to East Coast. Truthfully, most of the time, there are some exceptions, but most of the time we see out West, RVs are going for so much more. A lot of times you can buy an RV on the East Coast, pay for shipping to the West Coast, and still have it cheaper than if you bought it out West. I don't know why that is. Maybe property's more expensive out West and so they have to raise prices to cover it. Truthfully, I don't know. But if you are out West, you will definitely want to consider either flying, which I recommend that more than having it transported, but flying out and driving it back or having it transported out. All right, the next thing that you got to consider is inventory. Now, inventory is definitely getting better, but larger dealerships, even when everybody is stacked with inventory, larger dealerships just have more access to inventory and they're gonna have more models and everything for you to choose from. If you drive by a big dealership, they got tons of inventory. Larger dealerships might have 1,000 or more units right there on the lot, where smaller dealership might have 100 or 200. That doesn't, again, it depends on your specific situation. If you know the exact unit you want, the exact floor plan, just shop to see who has that unit, and whether it be small or large, you can kind of compare that way. If you're kind of just like going to basically see units and try to find something that fits for you, that larger dealership might be better because they're gonna have more access to, show you things. And of course, you're really gonna wanna get with a salesperson because you're gonna start broad, check out a couple units, see what you like and don't like, and narrow it down. But you're better off to start with 1,000 and narrow it down than 100 or 200 or 300 and narrow it down. You're just gonna have a lot more options that way. Now, in a market like we have been seeing in the past where inventory is really tight, that's where larger dealerships do even better because they can pull, they're ordering in bulk. They kind of get priority just because they're so large and ordering so much. So that, again, it depends on your situation, and it also depends on the market, what inventory is like at the time you decide to purchase. Something else you really need to consider is where you live specifically. So we talked about East Coast to West Coast, but we're gonna spin that a little bit. This is more if you're staying, weekend warrior or week-long trips, not full timing. Because if you live in like the New England area, there's not a lot of dealerships there. And there's always a chance that the dealership can say, you didn't buy from us, we're not servicing you. That's with anybody. But if there's only 3 dealerships to choose from within a 100-mile radius of you, it could be a lot harder to really find a dealership who's willing to service you. So in those situations, it might be more important to purchase from your local dealerships. Where the flip side is that if you live in California or Florida or something like that, if one dealership tells you no, there's probably another one 10 miles down the road because there's just so many dealerships in that area. So again, you really want to weigh where you live, how much you're going to be traveling and everything, whether you're full-time or part-time. Something else to consider, and this is a little bit more on the sales side once you actually get into the dealership, but you're going to want to find out what their extra special offerings are. So most dealerships will do that. Like you guys know, we partner with RV Retailer, and they have RV Complete, which is like a year of roadside assistance, 14 nights of camping in specific campgrounds. There's a bunch of benefits to it. Truthfully, I think RV Complete is awesome, but every dealership has their own. One of the dealerships we worked at had the warranty forever. Everybody just has their own little pitch. So you got to find out what's important to you. Like truthfully for us, since we have, we work with dealerships, something like a warranty forever isn't as important because we can get discounts and stuff on service work. Where roadside assistance was a lot more important to us because if something happened, we can call them, and that's something that the dealership that we partner with wouldn't be able to help with as much once we're on the road. If you are buying from a smaller local dealership, or sometimes even a little bit bigger ones, see if they have a service network that they work with. So one of the dealerships that we worked with, they had the Priority RV Network, which is a network of smaller dealerships, but it was kind of like, hey, we'll take care of your customers when they're out here traveling, you take care of our customers when they're in your area traveling. If you do buy from a smaller dealership, I would highly recommend that, because a larger dealership is gonna have locations throughout the country anyways, and you're gonna be able to go to those dealerships and get service work done. But again, on the smaller one, if you live in South Carolina, you buy from that one, location dealership. If you're out in Texas, you don't have any pull to say, hey, you're part of the dealer network, I really need to get in soon. So that can be really important because that's kind of one of those things that you never think about until something happens. Until you're in that situation and then you're like, man, this really sucks. So make sure to figure out what they offer in that regard as well. And that truthfully is large dealership or small dealership. All right, and the last point that I really want to touch on with this is what is their in-house financing like? Most people finance their RVs, and most of the people that finance go through the dealership, which typically that is how you can get some of the best rates and terms and everything. But I have seen more with small dealerships that they don't have that reach and that grab with some of the banks because they aren't sending as many loans to them. So sometimes your interest rates are higher. The flip side to that is sometimes they're better about working with more local credit unions or local banks, and they might have a better relationship with them. So, it's really hard to identify that, but even once you get into the finance aspect, that is definitely something to compare and kind of shop around with other dealerships Because I always tell people this, if you get a couple $1,000s extra, but then the interest rate is higher with that dealership, truthfully, that's a worse deal because over the life of the loan, you're probably gonna end up paying more than a couple $1,000s in interest. It just doesn't seem like it today. So financing is one of those ones that's really hard and tricky to navigate, but it is important because there's tons of money to be saved there as well. So kind of wrapping it up, basically I would take all of this information and answer those questions to really help you decide if you should be buying from a local dealership, buying large, or really comparing both if both situations would work fine for you. It's at that point that I would really take that information and go to the dealerships. And then you can shop local versus local or large versus large or both. But it's after you kind of answer those questions, that's when it's important to start talking about pricing and shopping it and everything. And of course, just kind of feel it out. Honestly, there's some larger dealerships that are phenomenal and there are some that aren't that great. Same thing with smaller dealerships. There are a lot of really good mom and pop shops. And then there are some that, aren't as good with customer service and everything. So you're really gonna wanna go to the dealership, feel them out, and ask the right questions to see, once you've narrowed it down to local dealerships, which local dealership is gonna be best for you, and vice versa with a larger dealership. All right, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you guys found this video useful. Remember, we do videos like this every Wednesday. We do vlog style videos every Sunday. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification to be reminded of our videos, and also smash the thumbs up button. And one last little reminder, if you are in the market to purchase or you're going to be soon, I would highly recommend checking out the link below that'll pull up my calendar so you can schedule a time slot. And we can just customize a plan that works best for you. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.